With the best trading month of the year fast approaching, July offers some of the best buying opportunities this year. So get ready because today we dive into 3 ASX trending stocks that have the potential to fly in July.
July is a huge catalyst for the market to go up. And I mean, the data shows it right there, 40 years of data, and July is always the best performing month.
As always, we'll show you key levels to watch for and give you some specific techniques to help you become a better investor.
A safe play, 18%, basically in a stock that's in the top 20. With all the news and everything that you've highlighted there, Phil, I don't see that as a high probability of happening.
Welcome to Wealth Within's Hot Stock Tips. With over 2 decades of experience training over 30,000 clients, we bring you what actually works in the stock market. Joining me today is Wealth Within analyst Pedro Banales, and I'm senior analyst Philip Tortevsky. So let's dive straight in. All right, first up, welcome in, Pedro. How are you going?
Very well, and yourself, Phil?
Very good, mate. We've got a lot to cover. We're going to be covering off stocks that are trending right now, themes and price-wise. So let's go into the charts and bring up the seasonality chart. Now, if it's the first time you're looking at something like this, it's basically a collation of all of the monthly performances on the All Ords Index dating back from 1983 to 2025. So there's 40 years worth of data here of monthly performances, and you can clearly see that July spans as the best performing month on the All Ords Index from a history perspective. Pedro, I just wanted to bring that point up because we're coming into July. Obviously, we've got earnings season coming in August. We've also got dividends as well. So, you know, what's really exciting to me this month now, July, end of financial year, obviously June, is coming in. That provides a lot of opportunities. I know you've also got a seasonality screen that you wanted to share as well.
That's right. And, you know, July is a huge catalyst for the market to go up. And I mean, the data shows it right there, 40 years of data, and July is always the best performing month. Now, I've gone and put the last 10 years of data just to see if anything has changed, and nothing has. I mean, July is still the best performer. Of course, it's been challenged a little bit by November, but we've got those Cyber Mondays and Black Friday type deal things that kind of skew the data on this one on the 10 yearly time frame. But what's interesting is that April is also a huge month for our market, but we were actually down in April because of those tariff announcements. So I think the market also has a little bit of fuel from April that needs to catch up, and hence why we're up so strongly in June already. But that will be reflected in July and adds further fuel to that up move.
Yes, great stuff, Pedro. Obviously, you know, that's why it's so exciting now to report on July, because there's going to be so many opportunities on our market. And it is time now to get into our first one, which is Rio Tinto. I want to bring your attention to the screen right now. And, you know, Rio, obviously the theme, Pedro, that's been flying around with Rio has been lithium over the last little while, but it's not the only theme. What I have seen recently is Rio in talks with the Congo over a prized lithium deposit. So going even harder in this lithium space. Obviously, Arcadium Lithium was the big talk a few months back where Rio picked that one up, but they're going all in even further on the lithium play here through the Democratic Republic of Congo. But I wanted to bring up the chart of Rio first because, you know, aside from the news flow that's coming through, aside from the fact that lithium is popular right now, to me, the bigger story out there is copper. And I want to get your thoughts on this as well. I've got overlaid the copper line here, or this is the copper futures price. And why it's so interesting to me, obviously copper has such an implication in, you know, all of the advancements that are happening right now. It's such a critical mineral out there, Pedro. And when you look at the relationship between copper and Rio, it starts to become eye-opening, especially what we're seeing right now, which is a first that we haven't seen for a long time. So if we just go back to that screen and have a look, I'll explain what I mean. And, you know, this relationship here, you can see there are periods, and we're on a monthly chart for Rio, where the copper price was running in excess of Rio's share price, and then there are periods where Rio's share price is running harder than the copper price. But what's quite, I guess, eye-opening is when you see the relationship of the copper price moving on up, but the share price of Rio lagging. It's often a signal that Rio's getting ready to catch up, and we're seeing that dynamic play out right now with the copper price trading at all-time highs. yet Rio is going the other way. It's actually stalling. But when you overlay what's happening recently with Rio and you tie in the fact, and I want to go on the weekly chart here, that we've had this massive, massive week last week. I mean, we're talking a 6.5% or potentially more, 6.5% move up following a serious correction at a major low that we highlighted, numerous times in previous reports, to watch Rio at these levels around here at around $102. This is a very clear sign that something's got involved. Big volume coming through as well, which is why I think right now Rio is one of those stocks that has basically done something different from what it's been doing for a long time, in the fact that it's picked up big buyers at big support on big volume. And really now it's time to watch this stock as it starts to trade around these levels, approaching this momentum line, because finally this trending theme of lithium might start, or even copper might start to, really start to open up on the Rio share price and get that finally ticking on up and attacking those all-time highs.
Absolutely. I mean, lithium is a good story, but copper is even bigger, because when you talk about energy infrastructure, you can't do that without copper. It's basically in everything, not only in the vehicles, but in the larger scope of things as well. Now, let's get on to my chart. I just wanted to quickly outline some levels here on the monthly, because I mean, it's very predictable, Rio, in terms of the range of price. So it has been stuck between that $40 range since 2019. So we've got $88 as a base here and $128 as the high. I mean, we do have the all-time high, but I'm going to put 128 just more where price found resistant more often, right? So we're at the mid-range at the moment, and you can see that historically multiple times it hit its head around that $108 and actually reversed, whereas the inverse was true later on, more recently in 2023, that price actually found support when it hit that $108. So we are in the mid-range of that larger range. We're at around that $108 mark. I mean, this is huge upside for Rio in terms of, a safe play, 18%, basically in a stock that's in the top 20. So this is a great opportunity. And of course, the risk is that it does go down to that $88. But with all the news and everything that you've highlighted there, Phil, I don't see that as a high probability of happening.
Yeah, it's definitely one to watch. Now, just on that point also, this is Dale's book, How to Beat the Managed Funds. It is free. You just have to pay the shipping. Go and check the link in the comments section. But it's a great introduction to all the techniques we show on this show, especially the trend lines. But if you do want to get even more in depth with your trading and serious, please go and visit the website wealthwithin.com.au and have a look at our trading courses. Under the education tab, you'll see a whole bunch of information and resources that will take your trading to the next level. But anyway, let's now move on to our next stock, which is ANZ, Pedro, and I'll let you take this one away. Obviously, rate cuts are coming up, potentially, I don't want to jump the gun, in July. And, that's going to be a trending theme going on throughout the second half of the year. So we've got CBA at record all-time highs. ANZ, not so much, lagging a little, but it is in trend. And it looks like right now there's another opportunity setting up for a good run over July.
There definitely is. And when you're looking for opportunities in the big four, CBA, like you said, it's run pretty hard. So you have to start looking at the other ones, such as Westpac, ANZ and NAB. Now, ANZ being the next one down the line, I think we're pretty much guaranteed a rate cut in July. Most economists agree with that, and possibly another 2 down the line later this year, but we're still yet to see that. Let's go to the monthly chart of ANZ, because I wanted to highlight something. And this is why we always, talk to our traders and really highlight the point of looking at the big picture first. And this is what we start off with when we're teaching technical analysis in our courses. We start with a big picture first and then go down to the smaller timeframes. Now, if we apply a momentum line from this low in 1992, you can see that basically ANZ moves along that gradient. And every time that it does get a little bit far above that gradient, it does come back to it. And it can dip below it, but eventually it comes back to find agreement. And you can see it time and time again. Even back here in 2011, came back and retested that momentum. It comes off that momentum and again retests it in 2016. It doesn't spend much time below that momentum line that I've drawn there, which is interesting. In most recent times, now that's the COVID low there in March 2020, it came back, retested that momentum, and we're currently below it. This is not like ANZ at all to be below that momentum line. So that's one key thing to consider here. Now, going to the weekly chart here, there's a very interesting pattern unfolding right there on the chart. I've highlighted it in yellow. Our students will know exactly what I'm talking about. And I mean, you feel as well, you'd be thinking any breakout, I mean, and this has a lot of, upside potential. And just only to the all-time high, we're talking 25%. And again, in a nice, safe top 20 stock, paying dividends, it's something that you don't have to risk your lunch money on. It's basically a nice, safe bet. I think ANZ is looking primed for upside in July.
Yeah, you're right. I mean, and you just raised such an important point about when we do, teach our traders. It's looking at initially starting off that big picture is so important, which is why you see it's so much easier to identify these big moves by looking at that big picture. But also, Pedro, I know you were getting excited about looking at that potential pattern that was lining up through there. And I mean, how often have you seen these kinds of moves regardless, especially actually, I'll say, on these top 20 stocks, which are fundamentally driven by flow, by their nature, that, you start to see these repeatable moves time and time again. Yes, once you move out to the lower end of the market, which is why we say don't start there because it's such more erratic behavior. But when you look at ANZ, what it's doing right now, lining up is textbook. And with all the catalysts coming in July, I think you're right, mate. I think it's going to run up. So let's just play a bit of hypotheses from here. Let's say we do get a nice breakout through that pattern on the upside. Where do you expect it could run to by the end of July?
Well, I think by the end of July, we can expect the stock to be at least around that $32 level, right? So that represents about, that 9 to 10% upside, which is pretty good considering that the downside risk, if you're talking about these previous lows, and I'll just zoom in so people don't need to get their magnifying glasses like Janine would say, that low of $27 to $28 seems to be significant. So, you could place a stop below there. I would say at least 10% upside, like you mentioned, to the end of July, and possibly, going on further, along the year, 25% to that all-time high wouldn't be, out of the question either.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, let's now move on to our next stock, which is Boss Energy. Now, this one is a very interesting stock, again, from a trending perspective. Obviously, Pedro, uranium has been in the news a lot. We've had the Uranium Trust, the Sprott, pumping $200 million, picking up the physical uranium, but also a lot of talk around the, news flow with uranium in mind. So let's go and have a look at that chart here for Boss Energy. And what I've done, I've overlaid the uranium spot price to the Boss Energy price. And what I like about this one now, obviously Paladin is our biggest uranium player in Australia. Now you look at the chart of Paladin and it's still pointing downwards. Boss Energy, not so much. This stock is trending and it's moving in line with the uranium price. You can see pretty much exactly when uranium ticked up was the exact month that we saw a pickup in Boss Energy. Now, the way the chart of uranium looks, I'm not going to bring it up, but it does look like it's definitely going to be pushing up back to that, the all-time highs there that it's had back in January 2024. But for Boss Energy, right now, we've got two things that are supporting, or I'll say three things that are supporting this move. It's the catalyst, which is the theme. It is trending. The share price is also trending. It's leading in a sector where, there aren't many players that are following this type of price action. And so it's really standing out, shining in this space. And it's got a huge amount of volume coming in to support these moves. In fact, the most amount of volume that this stock's ever had. And that volume really came out around these lows. So we're in a beautiful trend, very nice momentum line following this up. Again, these are the techniques we do teach out here. So please, again, if you're not looking at the book, go look at the courses, but a nice trend line that's going to keep you safe following this momentum all the way up. In terms of potential resistance, I do see $6 being the next level where this stock could find some resistance, and that's obviously playing it safe. I mean, there could be a potential level of resistance a little bit closer by around $5, but nevertheless, it's about where it's come from to me that's so important. And you know what you often find with these stocks, when they run out into trend, it's important to gauge the pullback, right? And so if I measure back through 2023, look at the pullbacks that were happening. They were signs that the market wanted to go higher. Back throughout this period in 22, look how deeper the pullbacks are. That's generally a sign that the market's struggling to go higher. Now, we look at the current period, April, the big run that's happened since May, look at the pullback. Sellers have tried to get involved, but no chance. It's accumulated sideways rather than falling away, and now we're just breaking out. So we're coming back up following a very recent pullback. So to me, if you're asking the question, are you late to the next leg up? I don't think so. Are you coming into resistance at $5? Yes, but the way this stock moves and how strong the information was in terms of the bull run relative to what the sellers had to offer just here tells me that it's not out of the ordinary that we're going to get a break strongly through 5 and start attacking those $6, in the near term, because of obviously the fact that it is trending and volume's holding up. Big volume on that breakout recently on this bar through here. So everything about this is saying trend's going to go on. But as always, you've got this momentum line to keep you in check just in case things start to turn around. Any thoughts?
Oh, yeah, this one's huge. I mean, talk about building generational wealth. If you're able to get in early in the party with these types of stocks, you're going to be doing very well down the line. Now, Boss Energy is the second largest in market cap, only second to Paladin Energy. But of course, it means that it runs faster. So you can actually get better trades out of this one than with the former. So let's have a look at quickly the weekly chart that I've outlined here. And I've got the same levels as you, basically. I mean, that $5 is going to be the next level of resistance. We're coming up to it. We're around 7% short. We're 30% up to the all-time high. But hey, if it does break that all-time high, we're talking about blue sky here. Nobody knows what will happen from there. And that's when you can get those huge breakouts that you just let the stock run. You put a nice momentum line, like you mentioned, just below it, and you can just trail it all the way up. And of course, you can project some levels. And if you've done our courses, you know what I'm talking about, projecting those possible resistance levels up above. So this one is looking great. I'm actually very excited about this one, loving the volume coming into it. Everything is pointing to the sky.
Fantastic. Now, if you want more hot stock tips, check out our video, 3 ASX Warproof stocks to buy now.